This Hardcore Justice review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it, and the next time TNA are not sure if a wrestler is going to re-sign with them, they won't put him in a storyline set to conclude after his contract expires. I know I say this a lot, but I didn't know Hardcore Justice was this week. Not only that, but I didn't know what the full card was. I'm pretty sure TNA didn't run down the full card on Impact last week, and I don't think they talked up Hardcore Justice outside of social media, which you'd think would be a priority, what with them moving to Wednesdays this week when we all know Spike TV won't do a damn thing to advertise that. And yeah, these shows were taped weeks in advance, but that's what post-production is for. You couldn't edit in a few more ads or graphics or something? There, look! See how easy that was? The ironic thing is that I may have had a tough time getting excited for this show even if the hype machine had been turned on for it. I mean, sure, the card was promising, but there's a burnout factor to consider here. When you're having no DQ matches and street fights and monsters balls on TV almost every week, what's so special about an I Quit match? What's so special about Hardcore Justice, for that matter? Not much. Which, I'm sorry, is a problem. TNA do these matches constantly, and now, on a bigger show, when you need them to really feel special and really mean something, they just don't, in my opinion.
Thank you for your irrelevant opinion.
Not shockingly, the most enjoyable match for me was Low Ki and Samoa Joe, because that was the only match that didn't have a gimmick attached to it. They just went out there and wrestled a regular match without even much build-up to it, and it was terrific. It was a great match. Now just imagine what these guys could do together with some kind of storyline to work with. Not a really big one or anything, but something a little more than just match, match, match. And I know I keep talking about this, but the X Division rarely gets storylines, which makes it that much harder for these guys to distinguish themselves.
Oh, you were not aware of this?
Then we've got the rest of this card. Yes, the matches were impressive, but good lord, these gimmicks are getting so tiresome. But in most cases, it was like the high quality of the action we got here kind of forced me to care, despite my first inclination being to stay frustrated with this whole situation. You've got Bram versus Abyss in... oh my god. A Stairway to Janice match. It's basically another Monsters Ball, except Janice is above the ring instead of under it, and they telegraphed the finish before the match even started. When Bram came out with no shirt on, you knew he wasn't going to get hit with Janice because they'd have to wrap up his midsection to protect him, because it's a murder weapon that should kill you or put you in an ICU if you get hit with it, except it never does for some reason.
Oh, what a bunch of bull.
I'm gaining a lot of respect for Bram. This guy takes some pretty sick bumps. He's not afraid of thumbtacks. He threw himself through the barbed wire board here. It was a brutal match, and the right guy went over, but I feel like I'm getting really desensitized to this stuff with them doing it so often lately. And then the announcers make a big deal out of how Bram has now hit Abyss with Janice not once, not twice, but 3 times in a row, to which I say, so what? After he got hit with it once, this feud should have been finished. But Abyss no-sold it the first 2 times, he'll probably no-sell it this time, and if you're gonna no-sell a weapon like that, then what's the point of even having it? I'm becoming a big fan of Bram. He and Abyss have had some great hardcore matches together, but the storytelling from creative with the no-selling of Janice has really hurt this feud, if you ask me.
And that's the fishing line, 'cause Shark Boy said so.
Speaking of weird storytelling, I guess this Gunnar Shaw Anderson angle improved somewhat this week in that I'm about 75% sure now that Anderson is supposed to be the heel, but I don't think the casual audience gets that yet. And until they pull the trigger on that officially, the dynamics here are still too ambiguous for me to get into this. I'm not big on I Quit matches, but this was alright. I still have no idea where the angle is going or what I'm supposed to be feeling though, and that continues to be a problem. Why was Angelina versus Gail a last knockout standing match? Did the feud really call for this? Why? Because they had a backstage brawl for like 20 seconds last week? Is that all the justification it takes now? Look, I don't care about the beautiful people anymore. I just want them to go away so we can get some new knockouts on the screen. That said, I will admit, this last knockout standing match with Gail and Angelina was really, really good. This was pretty hard-hitting for the women. Impressive finish, too. I did not expect Angelina to take a bump like that. Holy shit. Now, granted, Gail did carry most of this, but Angelina held up her end. And for the first time since she came back, Angelina Love looked like she really cared. Like she was really trying. She's been half-assing it in the ring since she came back, but here she seemed to be honestly giving 100% effort. Which begs the question, where the hell was that effort for the last 6 months? I'm also wondering why Taryn Terrell never came out to stop Velvet from interfering. Velvet was in there so much this might as well have been a handicap match, but I'm hoping that with Gail still going over strong regardless, it means that this feud is done now. She essentially beat both the beautiful people by herself. You've made it quite clear that they're not on her level. The match was easily the high point since they restarted this rivalry yet again. It was a good way to cap it off. You're not going to get a more definitive ending to this thing. And as good as it was, 5 minutes after it was done, I was like, okay, what else you got? I can't muster up more enthusiasm for this. I don't care about the feud anymore. I'm sorry. So for the love of God, please, please let this be the last time Gail feuds with the beautiful people. This is the oldest, most played-out feud in your knockout division, and refusing to let go of it is not doing these women any favors. Let's move Gail on to Taryn, and presumably Jessica Havoc, who did not get a hype video this week for some reason. And, well, I don't know what you do with the beautiful people now. Another breakup angle, I guess. Or you could just take them off TV and make room for new knockouts. That would be cool, too.
Oh, my brother! Testify!
This six-man #1 contenders cage match felt like a bit of an afterthought, didn't it? Where was the hype for this? I don't remember them talking about this last week. And this was our main event, too. Wouldn't you want to get people excited about it beforehand? With that many guys in a cage match, this was bound to get chaotic, and it did. Though, to its credit, it never became as much of a schmoz as I thought it would. There were some good stuff in there, and the finish with the dual Towers of Doom I thought was really cool. I've actually never seen that before. So I really got into this match. And then we get to the finish. Rude and EY escape the cage and hit the ground at the same time. I understand that they're telling a story here, but the ratings completely tanked when Eric Young was the world champion. Even teasing that you're going to go there again feels like a bad idea. So that part made me uneasy. Lashley and Rude is what I'm looking forward to, and that's probably where this is going. But putting EY back in the mix there, even temporarily, I don't know if that's a wise detour to take, especially when ratings are so important right now. I was grateful that we had a couple talking segments here just to break up the monotony of all these gimmicks. Although, I felt like creative kind of slacked off during the first one. EC3 blames Rhino for Dixie going through a table, and he's not berating Rhino for more than half a minute before Rhino just erupts, and he's like, I'd rather be dirt poor than listen to your crap for one more second. Rhino's indignation went from 0 to 100 instantly. I mean, aren't we skipping a few steps here? There was no indication that these guys were on the outs until suddenly they were. EC3's anger made sense because it's in character for him to be looking for someone to blame, but Rhino getting so pissed off and so defensive so quickly, I really didn't buy that. It just felt like they were rushing it. Then EC3 kicks Rhino's ass. The potential feud with these guys doesn't interest me that much, but I suppose we can count on Rhino to put EC3 over at least. By the way, the highlight of this segment EC3 and Rockstar Spud having matching haircuts.
Rockstar Spud is in the building!
The segment that TNA seemed to think was the most important on this show, and I tend to agree, was the tag team segment. 3D, Hardys, Wolves, all together talking about bringing back tag team wrestling and elevating it back to where they think it should be. And coming from these guys, I believe it. And this is something TNA have been building for a while. They made 3D's reunion look like a big deal, made the Hardys reunion look like a big deal, made 3D versus the Hardys again look like a big deal, and here they made a potential 3D Hardys-Wolves feud look like a big damn deal. They even closed the show with a hype video for it. So, apparently TNA have very high expectations for this because they've taken steps to cover all the bases here. And I'm pretty excited for this best-of-3 series that these teams are going to have. It's just a shame, and I don't know how the hell this happens, that TNA scheduled this series of matches to conclude after Bully Ray's contract was set to expire when he had no new deal in place. Yeah. Spoiler alert. There's one more match for all the marbles in this series, and Bully Ray's contract runs out before they can have it. Really? You couldn't schedule the match before that date? You couldn't, I don't know, not put Bully Ray in a long-term high-profile angle if you weren't 100% sure that he was going to re-sign? Wow. Maybe they'll work something out with Bully Ray in time to save this, and maybe they won't. But how in God's name did you put yourselves in this position in the first place? Come on, TNA! This was easily avoidable! Very, very easily! And there are no excuses for it! Quite frankly, you should be embarrassed!
Congratulations, you just renewed your idiot license!
From a wrestling standpoint, Hardcore Justice was terrific. But creatively, I thought there were a few missteps here, and the constant gimmick matches are really wearing on me. The quality of the action we got was enough to placate me in that regard, but that's not going to work forever. I do think this was a good Impact, but the cracks were definitely showing, so I'd like to see a bit more attention to detail next time.